Welcome to Soccer Morning on NASN. Here's your host, Jason Davis.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Soccer Morning with American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. Here we go. It is Tuesday, 2 days. 2 more days. That's it. 2 more days until the World Cup. And then we can all just bask in the orgy of soccer. Am I allowed to say that on the air? Am I allowed to say orgy of soccer on NASN? What are our policies on that? Okay, I'm getting the high side. I'm allowed to say orgy of soccer over the course of the next month. 48 plus hours. What is that? Plus 6? 48 plus 6. 54 hours to go until the World Cup kicks off in Brazil with Brazil-Croatia. What I found this morning, looking around, Brian Dunseth on the show, by the way, in about 9 minutes. Looking forward to that discussion with Dunny. I'm going to ask him from a player's perspective, all of this stuff that Jurgen Klinsson's putting out about how you're missing the point if you're paying attention to formations. It's not about that anymore. That's 10 to 15 years old. All of that discussion. How important the tactics are, how important the numbers are. We'll talk to Dunny about that. I'd be interested to pick his brain on that discussion. But what I found this morning while preparing for this show, while looking around for the news, there's got to be news. The World Cup's in 2 days. No, we're in this dead period. We're in the period between teams arriving in Brazil and the actual tournament kicking off. And it's just fallow. There's just nothing there. It just, the biggest news yesterday, tell me if I'm wrong about this, Trevor. The biggest news yesterday was that a couple of Dutch players had a run-in with a kite surfer. And RVP, Robin van Persie, was scratched by this kite surfer. That was the biggest news I saw yesterday. Am I wrong about this? Argentina roommate assignments. Yes, that also leaked out there. We all got to imagine these Argentine players being in rooms together. Fernando Gago bunking alone. We got to enjoy that. That's what constitutes news right now, because we're all just in this. It's, I don't know if it's the eye of the storm. Is that the right analogy, or it's that moment before chaos breaks? Before I don't know. It's like that beat before, you really go into the song. I don't know. Before the bass drops. That's contemporary, right? That's what people are looking for. It's that moment before the bass drops. So we have to fill this time. We have to figure out what we want to talk about between now and Thursday. And I imagine Thursday morning. Well, we'll get there. We'll see what happens. We'll have guests. We're going to try to get as many knowledgeable people on the air, hopefully from Brazil, to talk about what's going to happen down there. And my issue here is I don't want this conversation to be dragged into the down part of this tournament, the sad part of this tournament, the troubling part of this tournament. The soccer on the field is going to be fantastic, but when you're looking for news, and the biggest news is Argentine roommate assignments and RVP having a run-in with a kite surfer, what you end up finding, where you end up traveling on the internet, is to Declan Hill's website, where he has a headline that says more revelations: the Nigerian goalkeeper and Ralph Muchki, Brazilian fixing, how to win money on the gambling market. And he's got a whole rundown of stories, and they're all sad, they're all bad, they're all negative, they're all distressing, because Declan Hill is on top of the match fixing problem. Of course he's writing about that. So he writes about the Nigeria friendly at Craven Cottage that was supposedly fixed. We had the goal. Who was the goalkeeper? Who was the goalkeeper that threw the ball in his own net? I'm already moved on from it, but it's a problem. And he uses that to go into the issue of whether or not there will be match fixers on the ground in Brazil. And of course there will be, because there's money to be made. 956, you're on the air.
What's up, Jason? It's Johnny Bravo, man.
Johnny Bravo, what's going on, man?
Yo, man, I just got to tell you, I'm real disappointed.
About what?
Yeah. Over the past 2 months, I've received the most troubling news. First, Donovan didn't make the World Cup roster.
Yeah, that's troubling. Yeah, go ahead.
Then I find out that Soccer Morning will be no more. That's so disappointing.
You're not going to raise that news to the level of Landon Donovan not making the national team roster, Johnny. I'm not letting you do that, man. I appreciate what you're saying, but don't do that. Let's move on.
It was a big part of my life, man.
I appreciate that. We're not going anywhere for a while, all right? Give it a chance. We got a month to go at the very least.
But it feels like a funeral already.
But it's not. It's not. It's not even really a death sentence. We're going in for treatment. I don't know. That's a terrible analogy. I don't want to treat it like that. Just Johnny. You know what?
Thank you. Just know that I appreciate everything you do.
I appreciate it.
The show is awesome.
I appreciate that, Johnny.
All right, thanks, man.
All right, Johnny Bravo. Sad Johnny Bravo. Nobody needs sad Johnny Bravo. That's not good. I mean, he's always down. I mean, he's always low key, not down. He's always low key because, I think we all know what Johnny Bravo's doing when he's watching the soccer match. I think we all realize what's going on there. Oh, I don't want sad Johnny. We're moving on from that. You're definitely not going to raise our news to the Landon Donovan level. And we both need. People are always saying, hey, move on from Landon Donovan. He's not on the team. Let's focus on the guys on the team. It's not fair to the guys on the team. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about what's actually going to happen. Let's talk about the stories of this World Cup, of soccer in general. Here's something that you may not have even realized, American friends. Did you know that there are 2 MLS games tomorrow night? We're going to talk to Brian Dunseth. He's in Portland. He's going to call the Portland-Dallas match tomorrow night. 530, you're on the air.
Oh, hey, David. Hey, Jason. It's Yusuf calling from California.
What's up? Are you doing your Vince impression?
Oh, no. I've just been a long-time listener, and since it starts so early, I usually don't get to listen to the show until later on the YouTube replay, and I just want to say thanks for doing what you're doing and keep it up.
All right, man. I appreciate it. We can't do this. Johnny and I'm sorry, what was your name? Yusuf. Johnny and Yusuf got in. That's enough for today. We're gonna move on. I appreciate it. I really do. The love is flowing, and I can't possibly thank you guys enough for saying these things, these very nice things that you're saying. But we've got to move on. We've got to treat this as less of a funeral and more of a party. I'm Irish. I want to wake. I want people having a good time. I want alcohol to be flowing. I want there to be music. I want dancing. I want a good time. Let's have a good time, Yusuf. All right?
All right.
Man. I appreciate that. You got anything else?
Oh, no, that's all.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, I can't take a bunch of calls from people, expressing their love of the show. I just can't. I mean, I love the fact that you guys feel that, but we can't turn this into that. We really can't. All right. So yeah, MLS is not quite on the break yet, but they will be. We'll talk to Dunny about what this break means for the MLS teams. Then it's a break in the league. It's not a break when it comes to overall across all competitions. The American teams have U.S. Open Cup games that they have to worry about during this break. But we're all going to be focused on the World Cup. We're going to be watching this tournament. And I asked you yesterday, do you want a tournament that plays out the way that most people expect it, and let's maybe see Brazil lift the trophy in their home country? I mean, I think that's a feel-good story we can all get around. People love Brazil. Everybody's second team is Brazil. Well, maybe not anymore, but it used to be that way. It used to be that you had your national team and then you rooted for Brazil because, hey, they were fun to watch. Slightly less fun to watch than they used to be, certainly 30 years ago, but still have amazing skills, still have amazing players. So let's continue that discussion. A little bit of chaos, some major upsets, because today, I'm going to do this today. I'm going to drop my official World Cup predictions. That's happening later in the show, so stay tuned for that. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we will grab Brian Dunseth, talk to him about the U.S. national team preparations, the formation shift, everything Jurgen Klinsmann's doing from a player's perspective. Maybe touch on some of this MLS as well. Soccer Morning, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on NASN with Jason Davis.
Back on Soccer Morning. Joined now on the telephone from the West Coast, where it is early, but my man is up. Brian Dunseth on the line. Dunny, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. The World Cup's 2 days away, and I was just talking about how this is like the dead period. We don't have much news happening now. The stuff coming out of Brazil is stuff like Argentine roommate assignments is news somehow, and Robin van Persie running into a kite surfer is news, and that's fun. I like it, but I can't fill an hour with it, Dunny.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I love it, man. How far have we come?
I know, right?
I was having this conversation the other day. You know, I can remember using. I felt like I was using tinfoil in the bunny ears to try to catch any game I possibly could when I was a young kid with all my buddies, just hovering around a 12-inch television. And to know now that at any point during the day, I can grab whatever tablet, phone, computer, turn on the television, and see this type of information free-flowing. We always used to talk about, as soccer fans, we were always ahead of the curve because we were constantly searching out information, because it just wasn't there.
Right. Yeah.
To see where we're at right now, it makes me incredibly excited for the future of the game. And obviously the World Cup is a spectacle to its own. But, yeah, man, it's just fun. It's amazing to see how far this sport is coming in the United States.
Yeah, we're lazy now. We don't have to do anything. You turn your television on, it's everywhere. You can actually flip around and find soccer like it's no big deal. I don't even have to do streams anymore, Dunny.
Yeah, no, I think it was. I can't remember who tweeted it out, but somebody said that yesterday or the day before with no friendlies, it was like waking up and the sun didn't rise for the day. It was just we're so spoiled right now with so many interesting games being played and so many previews, and I think everyone's on the edge of their seat just waiting for the next big injury to drop. And just watching Twitter explode yesterday for Neymar going down and twisting his ankle for a minute.
Yeah,
I love it, man. I'm a soccer geek at heart, so I love seeing all of this magnifying glass information coming out on social media.
All right, soccer geek. This is a perfect segue into this discussion about formations. We've seen Jurgen Klinsmann do different things during this warm-up period. He went from what essentially was a sort of empty bucket. At one point, he was playing with 3 defensive mids, and we all screamed bloody murder. He does it again against Nigeria, but tweaks it or whatever's happening. And I guess the question here is, and we talk about formations, I think, because they're easy. But as a former professional player, you're going to have way more insight than I am on whether or not Klinsmann's right when he says these discussions about systems are actually not up to speed anymore. The systems are not the key like they were 10 to 15 years ago. Do you think that's true? Is he just trying to muddy the waters like he always does?
Yeah, it's funny. I'll go 2 directions. One, Jurgen Klinsmann is the David Beckham of soccer coaches in terms of you ask him a question and he will give you the answer that he wants to give you, whether he answers that question or not.
Right.
It's been pretty impressive to see him manage and probably manipulate the media in certain sections because he doesn't really ever give you the answer that initial question was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
2, he's not the only one that talks about getting away from formations and numbers. Dom Kinnear has been talking about that for years. He hates talking about formations. Bruce Arena, you ask him about the diamond, he'll just tell you that all of his central midfielders will end up in that spot anyways, and that's why it looks like a diamond. The one thing, and I've had a tough time with some of the things that Jurgen has said because he's promised a style and substance and identity, a Latin flair, all of these things when he first took over. And I think it was an eye-opening experience to number one, just be in the country and live in the country. But 2, kind of really dig in and see what this soccer culture is like in the States and what players really mean. I think this team that played against Nigeria was more about the shape.
Mm-hmm.
Having a dedicated holding midfielder in Kyle Beckerman allows Jermaine Jones to be flighty.
Yes.
We all know Jermaine Jones wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
We all know at certain times, certain moments in the match, his athleticism, there's a switch that goes off and he's just going to bolt. Mm-hmm. So to have Kyle Beckerman sitting in front of Jeff Cameron and Matt Beasler, I've been hoping for this formation for a long time. to see Graham Zusi sacrifice to have Clint Dempsey tucked in a little bit more central underneath Josie Altidore, but still having Michael Bradley with the freedom to get forward and to see how damn good he is going forward, and not just be that quote-unquote two-way player, even though he does a ton of defensive work. And then to see Alejandro Bedoya out wide and combining and the overlapping with Fabian Johnson. I mean, I was really concerned about this group because we were tinkering with the diamond. We were tinkering with so many different faces. We were seeing a guy like Landon not on the roster, even though Landon makes that team better just by being at practice. I feel good about this team, man. I had major concerns about this team getting out of the group, obviously because this group is a death, but I think we got a shot now. I think we've got a realistic shot at getting out of this group.
But if we say that, and I'm sort of with you, and I think it's really hard not to be pulled along in that direction. Whether you value the Nigeria game or not, it's hard not to see some positives here. And we know there's quality players in this group. So that's my question: is this more about the players, or do you heap praise on Klinsmann for figuring something out? Because that's also a kind of a push-pull in the modern game. How much of this is tactics? How much of it is what the players can do individually?
Yeah, I mean, I think the coach is kind of like a referee. He can definitely reel in things really quick if he's not careful. And to see, Jurgen Klinsmann's tactics, I think that's what we've always been kind of keeping an eye on as fans, because we've heard it from so many different corners about, this guy doesn't really know his tactics. We've heard it from former players that he's been a coach. Then to see a guy like Martin Vasquez out so late, I think, to see his son's tweet, all of these things, I think were warning flags for us as fans to be like, hey, what's going on here? Why are we messing around at this point? How do we not know what our team looks like when we're just 3 games away from heading into the World Cup? Watching this formation, watching this team against Nigeria, I'm not saying that it was 100% ideal, everything went right, but I like this group. I like this group a lot, and I think we found arguably our strongest possible starting 11 that we have. Now, Nigeria against Ghana, when you put those two side to side, a little bit different, obviously. Some bigger names, the speed and athleticism, the transition game, it all mimicked what we're going to see against Ghana. But the difference between Nigeria and Ghana is Ghana's going to sit with 6 and attack with 4. And those 4 that they attack with in that transition game and that quote-unquote counter, damn.
Well, all the more reason to have Beckerman holding in that position and then have Jones capable of buzzing around and creating havoc the way he can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's going to be mistakes. And, at the end of the day, there's so many factors that come into play. And keep in mind, you still got training sessions. You still got players carrying knocks. The mental fatigue for some of these guys who's played virtually, 10.5 months at a really high level, that all comes into play. But that quote unquote formation, that shape, was in an ideal world for me personally, the best shape that I've seen, the best starting points that I've seen in a U.S. men's national team in a long, long time.
At the same time, and again, I'm asking you to kind of go back to when you played. You get that in, whatever instruction is given, and who knows how Klinsmann's communicating this, but there's a formation, there's a shape, there's a base that you're working from. Within that structure, the United States needs Michael Bradley to be really, really good. They need Beckerman to be his usual self. I mean, he's one of the guys, the guys I trust most, perhaps, especially in the way that they played against Nigeria. But you need Jermaine Jones not to be rash, not to give the ball up. We saw Fabian Johnson have a kind of up and down day against Nigeria. So it's as much about those individual guys and what they do in those moments as it is about the structure.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And in these warm-up games, you're trying to give guys an opportunity to see what their value is. Are they starters? Are they subs? Are they subs that he can rely on? We saw pretty much the same spine of the team for the most part through these games. I think we can all get an idea of which way he's leaning. But at the same time, I think there's, it's kind of like when we saw what happened with Steve Sampson in 1998. You got 2-3 assistant coaches and a head coach that walk into the room with their ideal formation, ideal lineup for the first game of the World Cup, and 3 looked similar, and then we came out with a 3-5-2, and that was Steve Sampson's lineup. So, there's a lot of things that can happen, and I always love the quote, the squeaky bum time. In big tournaments and big games, that all comes into play at some point, whether it's the coach, the referee, or the players. Yeah. So a lot of things can go right, a lot of things can go wrong. But again, after watching, I wasn't watching the score per se. I was just watching the movement, the adjustments, the way the team shape was staying together like a teeter-totter from side to side, the ability of Johnson to get forward and Bedoya to tuck inside, and having 2 guys overlap on the right. DeMarcus is just so solid on the left-hand side, and the way he tucks in, the way he keeps possession. People forget, I think, how good he is, because at each stage of his career, he's kind of taken one step back in the formation. But I mean, Bradley and Dempsey and Josie Altidore, to see Josie get back in terms of scoring goals, it was an ideal time for him to find the back of the net and to see what we all want to see: his strength, his athleticism, his technique, and then the finishing. I think for me, there's just a lot of things to feel positive about. Whereas before that game, these guys were ready to go to battle with each other. They were ready to go to battle for the shirt, regardless of the outside speculation. But again, man, to see the sport where it is, and the fact that we have so much coverage and so much speculation about our team, it's something that we've never seen before in this country.
I find it fascinating that there's a gigantic spectrum when it comes to expectations and what they might actually do. Now, look, there are fans who are always going to believe, and I love that, and we need that. But there are also those people out there who say this is going to be 98 again. They're going to get 0 points. They're going to come home with their tail between their legs. We have to fire Klinsmann after that. And it's interesting because, I mean, look, it's a tough group. There's no doubt about that. They're still not, no matter how well they played against Nigeria, no one's going to call them favorites to get out. But they have a fighting chance, and I'm not sure where the ultra negativity comes from, unless it's just built on Klinsmann and his odd way of going about his business.
Yeah, and listen, with the amount of money that Jurgen Klinsmann's making, he's not going anywhere. I think Sunil tied him up for the long haul. So regardless of what happens in this group, we're not going anywhere. The one thing I've always said, and I said this before I named his 30-man roster, is by naming the young players, the one thing that we have to keep an eye on is the Olympic qualifying right around the corner.
Right.
And how do you find that right balance? Because since my group in 2000, we've only qualified for the Olympics once. That's one out of the last 3 times. To have the identification process, to get the experience, to raise the awareness of these younger players of what they're about to expect. Again, we're focusing on the World Cup, but at the same time, you always got to keep an eye on the future. And that Olympic qualifying also leads into World Cup qualifying. Another couple Gold Cups, whatever other tournaments pop up.
Copa America.
All of these are huge because at the end of the day, people don't want to talk about. But CONCACAF is the second easiest qualification group outside of Oceania, I would argue. For the U.S., outside of playing Mexico home and away, Costa Rica away, Honduras away, we should win every game. It's really not, and that's what Jurgen, I think, is trying to replicate by these big games on the road in tough locations. That being said, replicating all those games and qualifying for a World Cup means nothing the moment that whistle blows and we line up against Ghana in a couple days, because you can't replicate that. And Bruce Arena will tell you that. Bob Bradley will tell you that. Any coach that has gone through qualifying and has his group at the World Cup says they just start laughing because it's completely different.
Let me go meta here a little bit, Donnie, because you mentioned it. You mentioned how far we've come, et cetera, et cetera. I love talking about that stuff because I really think it is fascinating to consider how quickly the United States has turned into a country where soccer is ubiquitous, even if people want to claim nobody cares, et cetera. No, we know that's not true. And I guess around World Cup time, it kind of comes to a head. And I imagine you run into people who aren't soccer people all the time, who are now suddenly asking you questions. And we obviously have mainstream media types jumping in on informed about. And I'm willing to take the good with the bad. And I wonder how soccer fans and how you sort of process the fact that there are all these people, quote unquote, intruding on our turf. How do you deal with that?
I love it, man. I love it. The more people talk about the game, good or bad, it is just brand awareness. I think you and I and a lot of soccer fans that feel like they have a decent grasp of the game. Some of these articles are hilarious. I love it. I love it. I mean, the amount of times that I've found myself being quoted in some article and totally taken out of context, it just kind of makes me laugh. Yeah. And then I kind of get those chills of, okay, when's that first phone call coming? Because I know I'm going to get in trouble for that one. It's some realm. But yeah, I want people to try to understand the game. Mm-hmm. And the one thing, Jurgen Klinsmann, for how hard we've all been on him in certain aspects, if you hear the term of certain guys having brass balls, I mean, I'm really interested to see what Jurgen Klinsmann's are made of, because that guy is not afraid to be controversial. He's not afraid to make the tough decisions. Mm-hmm. He's not afraid to, constantly probe and push and find out if it's really working, and to see what U.S. soccer has done in conjunction with MLS and the Development Academy and the whole lower level. We are going to see the repercussions in a positive way, realistically, in the next couple of years, and to see how many younger players are given, more high intensity training in games without playing 6 games over the course of a weekend like we all did when we were young kids, and being able to go play in San Diego or Las Vegas or wherever it may be. Yeah. But to see everything being turned on its head, to see Wilbon going after Jurgen Klinsmann on ESPN, I love this stuff because, again, there is a broader brand awareness, and I know it only happens every 4 years. I get it. It's World Cup. Everything gets hyped up. Everything gets ramped up. But we're in a really positive phase of soccer, and to see New York City FC, Orlando soccer, Orlando FC, to see Atlanta, to hear about Minneapolis,
Sacramento,
all these guys. It's a television contract that's bringing in ridiculous amounts of money. Now we got a collective bargaining agreement right around the corner, so that'll get really interesting really quick. Yeah. But to see the league, to see the teams, to see all of these things, building this war chest and continuing to bring back players, to see Jermaine Defoe, Michael Bradley, Clint Dempsey, to hold on to some of these younger guys that potentially could have gone overseas. I love it, man. I love to see where this league's going, the direction it's going, and I'm really interested to see what other big-name players are going to come out of this World Cup and sign with Major League Soccer.
If you ever want to get a sense of how far Major League Soccer has come, talk to Dunny about stories from the old days. For the way it used to be.
Sitting in a Boston courtroom and knowing that we were fighting the team, the individual players were trying to put together, a player association, and seeing how close that league came to contraction, and being a part of contraction with the Miami Fusion. Right. Being told you go up to show up for your check, and okay, here's your last check. We're not sure where your next one's coming from, but don't worry, you're a league-owned player. You'll end up somewhere. Yeah. It's been some wild times, man. Wild times.
I've got to, before I let you go, John, there's MLS, and I apologize because I just find it hard to focus. I mean, I'll look and see what Portland does against Dallas, and what's the other game? I'm not even sure. Montreal and DC. I guess I'll check in on that too. But we're talking World Cup, and I don't know if you were able to see any of Ghana, South Korea, but Ghana beat South Korea 4-0, and sort of just like the Nigeria game boosted American confidence a little bit. Now that we get this Ghana game, and it's, oh wow, look how good Ghana is, Asamoah Gyan and everything else. should that worry anybody, or is this? I mean, again, these warm-up matches, how important do you think they really are?
Confidence-wise, I think it's always good to go in and obviously win these games because that little creeping shadow of doubt disappears immediately. Again, Ghana, I watched that game, and South Korea is good, man. Japan is one of my dark horses, but South Korea is always been speed, technical, athletic, and to see them torn apart, it was all transition. It was all transition, and Ghana was sitting back, absorbing and breaking, and they are so fast and so quick. And what I was impressed was Jordan Ayew comes off the bench, he scores 3, great finishing. But I was more impressed with how quickly Ghana swarms defensively, commits numbers, recovers within 5 to 10 seconds after they turn the ball over, and immediately it's a forward pass, it's a positive pass. And again, that speed and athleticism, it is absolutely going to test the back line. If U.S. can keep the game in front of them with numbers, that would be a huge positive aspect towards being able to get a great result. Because they're going to have a lot of possessions, they're going to have a lot of ability to create some chances, but they've just got to make sure defensively they keep Ghana in front of them as much as possible, because we saw how quickly they flare right, they flare left, they have a secondary run following up, and that finishing was pretty damn impressive.
2 things I think that would be very, very important, and that is, one, that the scoring that Josie Altidore poses, if he actually, if his confidence is back and he can be that guy who scored that second goal against Nigeria, then that's a big boost. And the second thing is, can the United States, and I'm asking you, do you think they can defend with 5 or 6 in transition, or are we going to see, Beasler and Cameron have to be the guys that step up and make the play?
Well, I think, at times you're going to see 2 different teams. You'll see 2 groups. You'll see that back 4 with Beckerman sitting in front, and he'll be that pivot player. And then the freedom of Jones, Bedoya, Bradley, Dempsey, and Altidore just to get forward, if that's what the group is. The one thing that the U.S. is always going to have to be careful with is when they commit numbers with Beasley or Johnson getting forward. Kyle's going to sit, so at times you'll have dedicated 3, potentially 4.
Right.
But where else is that shape? Where's those recovery runs coming from? Is it Jones? Is it Bradley?
Yeah.
Bedoya was doing a lot of work on that right-hand side. But Clint and Josie are going to have the freedom to stay high. Clint's going to be kind of cruising around looking for the game. He's not going to give you a ton of work defensively. That's fine, because he's one of those special guys you don't necessarily want to put in the box. But in this World Cup, I think what we're going to realize is we've got some pretty damn good players in a U.S. jersey. But Tim Howard and Michael Bradley, I think, are going to be the guys where we say, all right, we've got pretty damn good players, but we've got a few elite players as well. And I know that's hard for U.S. soccer fans and the Euro snobs to always hold on to. But every team has a few special players, and I think in this World Cup, it's an opportunity for Timmy and Michael Bradley in particular to showcase truly how elite they are, and you can put them kind of near the big boys in world soccer.
Brian Dunseth talking to us about this World Cup preparation. Again, you're in Portland, right now?
Yes,
so
got in late last night.
Calling Portland and Dallas, and I guess since you're there and MLS is still happening, at least until midnight East Coast time tomorrow night. Can Portland make the playoffs? Because I'll go back and forth on this, Dunny, because they obviously started poorly, couldn't win a game, lots of draws. They've started to win some games, and I suppose Dallas is pretty beatable, even if they come off of their own win. If they win this game, are you starting to think about them as a playoff team despite all of the struggles they've had?
Yeah, I always have, to be honest with you. I think they were facing really 2 issues. One, Bright DK, no longer with the team. He got traded for Urruti last year. And then Ryan Johnson ended up going to China and getting some big money. Gaston Fernandez, Urruti, they're not the biggest, the strongest, the fastest, but they're probably some of the most technical players in Major League Soccer. So to see Fernando Adi come in and have, 4 or 5 goals? I think it's 4 goals, or 4 goals and 2 assists, 4 goals and 3 assists in 2 starts. The guy's a beast, man. I was watching him play. I watched the games at New York at Chivas when a little bit of Vancouver. and to see his presence, and then to see him up close on Saturday night, 6'4", 185 pounds. The kid is chiseled from stone. I mean, he reminds me of Otunke Hurtado from back in the day, old LA Galaxy and New York Metro stars back in the early days of Major League Soccer. He's got size, he's got strength, and man, he's got some tenacity for his size that very few. I mean, he's kind of like that Mamadou Diallo type size. But yeah, I mean, the big problems for Portland have been center back struggles. Caleb said it time and time again. You know, I can point out in video. I can tell these guys to stay with their runs. I can tell them to stay within arm's length distance. But if they don't do it, you know, I can't control them on the field. It's one of the reasons why we saw Footy Danzo traded to Montreal. I think it's one of the reasons why we're seeing the rumors and reports linking Portland to Jolie and Lescott. So I think those are the two big issues. For Portland, they're going to win games. They're going to be consistent. They're going to get back on the horse. But when CONCACAF Champions League starts and their depth is tested, that's going to be the big litmus test for this group, because they rely virtually on the same group of players game in and game out. But when CONCACAF Champions League starts up and you're playing on an artificial surface, you're having to get on a plane Sunday morning and travel to, you know, the same distance from Portland to Japan as Portland to Guyana. It's going to be really interesting to see how this group looks. The heavy legs, the fatigue, the injuries, the mental fatigue, when they start pushing through, you know, mid-August, September, because there's going to be a lot of teams in that Western Conference that are going to try to put together a run, try to make some moves, and it's going to be Western Conference again. It's head and shoulders above the Eastern Conference right now.
Can we get Fabian Castillo to be that player that he was last weekend every single time? Can we get that?
I hope so. He's either Superman or it's like kryptonite the moment the ball hits the 18-yard box. I mean, he's so fluid and so athletic. He's still so young, 20, 21 years old. Man, when he gets going, he pins his ears back and he just starts slaloming past multiple defenders. That goal he scored, you feel like he should be doing that every single game. I mean, he could be a really elite player in this league if he could be consistent. And I don't know if that's a mental thing. But he absolutely has something special, as proven by that goal against Colorado. The question is, for me, when I watch him play, he's got everything individually, but can he make the players around him better? And I think that's that is the big question for me, because you can tell he is a special player, and Oscar Pereira is really, really good at developing young players.
Yeah, he'll be 22 in a week. It's still relatively young, but it feels like he's been around forever and just hasn't put it all together. And he could be an elite player in this league. They could make a lot of money off of Fabian Castillo if he's that player week in and week out. Brian Dunseth joining us. It's early out in Portland. I feel like I've taken up too much of your time already. But Dunny, appreciate the time. Enjoy the game tomorrow night and enjoy the break from MLS. I'm sure we'll all take a step back and look at that league and see what'll come after. Look forward to hearing you on the air again.
I'll be on the beach in Mexico watching the first week of World Cup, and I'll definitely have a couple tequila shots for you.
I appreciate that. All right, thanks a lot, Dunny. We'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, man.
There he goes, Brian Dunseth. Good stuff as always. Yeah, you start talking to Brian Dunseth, and you don't even look at the clock, and then you peek at it, and you realize a half hour has gone by, and you're like, oh, he's probably got other stuff going on. I mean, we hadn't really determined how long he was going to be on the air, but there you go. Phone lines open, 347-756-6276. Let's do that. Let's open up the phone lines. Let's talk about this. I'm seeing something about a Mexico lineup. This makes it a little real. The World Cup, a little bit more real if there's a Mexico lineup out. We know Miguel Herrera likes to do this. He likes to put out his lineups early. He's got apparently decided on Guillermo Ochoa in goal over Talavera and Corona. So I'm not sure if that's necessarily an upset. I mean, Memo Ochoa is a very good goalkeeper, but that was the controversy, or that was the talking point within the Mexican camp leading into the World Cup. Who was going to start in goal? ESPN Deportes reporting that he has decided on Ochoa, and he's got Andres Guardado in the midfield, which was another one of those back and forth decisions for Herrera. If I can find a full lineup, I will get that for you. I don't have it in front of me. What I'm looking at is a bunch of paragraphs and my eyes cannot read, and my mouth cannot talk all at the same time, processing all of that information. So we'll look at that. Again, Ochoa is the big decision for Herrera, and difficult to go wrong there. Really? Is there any real controversy if you pick Memo Ochoa over Corona, over Talavera? I don't know. I mean, again, it's just a matter of we have three choices. They're all relative. They're all very good. They're all relatively close. Who do you decide on? And then there's the question of essentially whether or not leadership is coming out of the back, that kind of thing. So we'll keep those phone lines open, 347-756-6276. I've got a couple places I can go today. We talked to Dunny about that whole media intruding upon soccer. It's not intrusion. It's what you want. Really. It is. Trust me. It's okay. Everybody just take a deep breath. When Michael Wilbon goes off on Klinsmann, the xenophobic element, yeah, we talked about that. That's bad. But when these people decide to take soccer up a little bit and look at this team and make comments and maybe say things that are a little less informed than you might like, it comes with the territory. It's part of the deal. You don't have to listen to it. You can ignore it, just like you ignore the guys yapping on the radio when it comes to sports in your town. Just like you ignore Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. You ignore they say dumb things all the time, and you ignore them. So just ignore this. Rick in Philly, what's up?
Hey, Jason, I want to get back to the big news coming out of Brazil yesterday. How much of a hero would that kite surfer have been if he could have taken out Van Persie and Jan Mott? I would have sent him all kinds of money for that.
Why? Why, Rick?
Feyenoord.
But come on. You're good. Rick, your club over country thing, and I don't know how you feel about the Dutch national team. I know you're a Dutch soccer guy.
I do like the Dutch national team, but I hate Robin Van Persie with the white-hot passion of 1,000 suns.
Okay, but he's not even playing in Holland anymore, Rick. It doesn't...
Yeah, but it's one of the... And he's keeping Christian Huntelaar on the bench.
Well, okay, there is that, but he's also when he is healthy and informed, one of the best strikers in the world. How are you going to keep him off the field if he's available?
Well, traditionally, he hasn't played that well for the Dutch national team, especially in this sort of system.
This is an interesting question, Rick, and Tay's on the line with this, and we'll get to you in a second, Tay. The question of whether or not you sit a player who struggles with his national team, who you know is very, very good and is capable of being a major influence on your side. This is sort of the opposite of the Josie Altidore question, is it not?
No, it absolutely is. Gio dos Santos, another great example of that.
Gio dos Santos, yes, absolutely. Well, until recently, dos Santos always a better player for his national team than his club because he struggled to get playing time. We know about the Spurs experience for him. So when you have a player of Robin Van Persie's quality and you are making that decision, how can Louis Van Gaal say, I'm not going to pick that guy who just scored 30 goals in the Premier League because he's struggled in the past for us? It's
a no-win situation, and part of it's complicated by the fact that they're changing formations, a formation that was insanely successful for them in qualifying and is the traditional Dutch formation, to a more defensive one. But, I mean, it's no win because if you start Huntelaar and he doesn't score, well, you didn't start Van Persie, who tears it up at club level, and vice versa.
Okay, fair enough. Anything else?
So at that point, I think you make the moral decision and you start Huntelaar.
Okay. I mean, very difficult. And spoiled for choice.
How Dutch would it be to have Robin Van Persie taken out by a kite surfer?
Well, it would have been the story of the World Cup to this. I mean, it would dominate discussion, especially headed into that game against Spain, that Robin Van Persie was injured and taken out of the lineup by a kite surfer on the beaches of, I'm not sure where they're based, but let's just say Rio for the for the ease of it. That would be pretty amazing. You got anything else, Rick?
Well, it was Van Persie, but it was also the right back, Daryl Janmaat. And Van Persie must have stopped the kite surfer because there's no way Janmaat did.
Okay, fair enough. There's a joke, but good job, Rick. Appreciate the phone call, man. Tay, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm upbeat. The World Cup starts in 2 days, man.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Except last night, Korea was Ghana saying,
The Ghana. Wait. Okay, so Tay is our resident South Korea expert caller. So, Tay, tell me what happened. What happened there?
I mean, obviously, the score lines 4-0. As Brian described, basically, Ghana was very fast and able to score on us. But I mean, I guess silver lining is that the back four that started for Korea is not the starting back four we're going to see on the World Cup stage.
Okay.
A couple Bundesliga players in the back line didn't start.
Why?
So that gets. According to him, though, he didn't want to reveal his tactics, so they switched jerseys and everything. But I'm not sure how that I don't know if that's simply excuse or not. But
All right.
But I guess I did to see whether the backup players will be good enough. I guess you find out that it might not be. I mean, our starting back line may be decent enough. But I guess our backup aren't going to be that good, and we found that once again our starting goalkeeper. He's a little slow in certain reaction. That's he's a criticism, but he's what we have. So
we know. Look, we know Ghana can be ruthless on the break, and that's what Dunny was talking about, and that's sort of what you're saying here. But in context, if South Korea didn't have their starting back line, certainly a couple of guys who were alternated, do they have anything else? Does Korea have any other warm-up games before they start play?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Do they have any games left, warm-up games?
No, I don't think so. But I mean, the main thing was it's not so much that we got scoring so much that our offense wasn't very effective. I think we got one shot on goal by Hong Min Son that came off the goal post. So that's major concern because for that we had our starting attackers. We had Fong Sung-min, Chung Yun Lee and Jung Park on there.
Okay.
And they didn't quite create enough, so I guess that's the main concern. So
Group H.
I guess good thing is that we don't have to play Ghana in the group stage. So
No, you got Group H: Belgium, Algeria, Russia, and Korea. And your team's not going to be favorites to get out of that group, certainly. Although neither Algeria or Russia are world beaters, I think a lot of people are kind of torn between the two of those teams to get second spot in the group with Belgium as the obvious favorites. So what does South Korea need to do in order to have a chance? I mean, this is not a team that's built to bunker and play defensive soccer necessarily. They're a team that relies on their technique and their certainly ability on the ball. But if you're not going to have the ball enough, it doesn't matter. And if you can get hit on the break, if you can get victimized defensively, it's going to be a problem. So what do they need to do to get through, Tay?
I think we have to utilize our wing play more, and then a combination play up front. I think that's going to be a key because way the Korea plays, we don't have hold the forward like Josie. What we do is they basically switch us around, So our wingers going in order, Chung Park can go outside, we'll play attacking midfield and create a combination play. I think that what we're expecting is. We're going to beat Algeria. I know Algeria is a decent team, but I mean, we're thinking that we're not going to lose to Algeria. The main question is Russia. Everybody's focused on Russia.
Okay.
So if you can do something good with that game, you have a great chance of moving. And despite us having a poor send-off series, if you think back in 2010, Japan had a horrible send-off series, and coach was people asking whether he should resign or not, but they had a pretty decent 2010 World Cup. So hopefully, Tony's a decent coach, so something happened and we do good. Yeah.
All right, appreciate the phone call, man. Thanks a lot. Best of luck to your team. All right, there you go. There's Tay talking a little South Korea. 559, you're on the air.
Hey, what's up, Jason? How's your soccer?
My soccer is good. How's your soccer?
Hey, man, I've been a long-time fan, and I know that I'm a day behind because I'm listening on a podcast while I work as a field worker picking up the rings. But I'd just like to thank you and Trevor for the show. I mean, to tell me through all my odd jobs I worked early in the morning and in the hot heat. So I'd like to thank you guys very much.
I appreciate that. You got anything else? Let's talk. I appreciate it. We got to move on, though. Got to talk about this World Cup. What's on your mind there?
Okay. This is what I got about the World Cup is, you got to support the team. We're going to get 9 points. We're going to go and beat Chile in the final. There you go, man.
Okay.
Look at the numbers.
All right. Appreciate the phone call. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, man.
I missed somebody there. 347-756-6276 is the phone number. If I don't get to you right away, keep calling in and we will eventually get to you. I did promise you my official World Cup predictions today. I've got a whole bracket filled out. It's right here in front of me. I'm looking at it. There might be a couple of surprises in there. There might be some disappointments for some people. It might be a little, I don't know. I might take some heat for this. We'll see what happens when I get to these predictions. If you want to make your predictions, go ahead. Feel free. We've got 2 days left. Tomorrow is the last day before the World Cup, the last day to get all of your predictions in. Because once games start, you can't be making predictions. I mean, you don't have to do an official bracket or anything like that, although, I'm considering doing one or two just to see how I do against the world. But you can't be that guy that waits till Brazil plays Croatia and then you're like, oh, I got Brazil winning it all, man. No, you can't do that. You got to get in ahead of time. It's the same thing with the NCAA tournament. You can't be making picks after the game starts. 713, you're on the air.
Hey, this is Garrett from Texas.
Hey, Garrett, what's going on?
Not much. I heard the calls earlier. I'm not going to bring up the inevitable.
All right.
To quote Jurgen Klinsmann, "What is this, a funeral?" But thank you. But I just got to say, because you mentioned it earlier, is the exposure we're seeing on ESPN and everything, and we're having a lot of different pundits talking about soccer that may not know so much about it.
Yeah.
I got to say, I guess any exposure is good exposure, but when I see the guys on PTI talking about the World Cup and they have no idea what they're saying.
Yeah, but
I passionate. And,
Garrett, I don't
think it's good. I think that gives it the kind of wrong exposure and it maybe reinforces some of the people's false opinions.
But Garrett, this is the attitude I've taken. You don't have to follow along with me on this, but my attitude is the haters are going to hate, period, end of story. If they ever come around to soccer, they're going to have to do it on their own time. I mean, they're going to have to do it on their own path, just like the rest of us did. Not everybody grew up playing the game, went to high school, played the game, watched the game on television, and just had a continuous line of soccer fandom. At least nobody over the age of maybe 20 or 25. The rest of us, I mean, I played as a kid, lost contact with soccer for a very long time, came back around to it in my early 20s, started paying attention. Learned as much as I could. I mean, I had memories of playing, FIFA 95 or whatever. And all of that stuff kind of informs my fandom now. And so I can kind of get where those people who are hating on the game are now. And while I think it's ridiculous that anybody feels the need to go out of their way to hate soccer, because that's why are you even bothering? Why are you on Twitter saying, oh, nobody likes soccer? That's just a waste of your time. Just move along. Go find your rodeo that's on ESPN5 or what. I don't know what you like, but go find it. That to me that doesn't make sense. But at the same time, the idea that less knowledgeable people talking about soccer in the mainstream is somehow going to turn off people who are already turned off, I don't think it matters. I really don't.
Okay. All right, and one more thing. All I got to say is we're getting 7 points from the group, and I'm expecting this group to be a pretty big player this World Cup.
All right, there you go. 7 points from Garrett in Texas. I love it. Thanks for the phone call. 703 on the air.
Oh, this is Tyler from Alexandria.
Hey, Tyler, what's going on, man?
Hey, I was curious about what your opinion of whether the starting 11 that we saw this past weekend is going to be the starting lineup coming up for the first game.
Yes, I think it is. I think what we saw was throughout the warm-up series, Azerbaijan, Turkey, Nigeria, I think what we saw was Klinsmann follow a plan and a progression. At least I hope it was. I hope he's not flying by the seat of his pants. I think he had always intended to get to that point against Nigeria where he put out his team that he's going to face Ghana with. Because if you think about it, it just makes too much sense to have that defensive stability in Kyle Beckerman with Jermaine Jones able to play off of Beckerman, meaning he's able to be freer in his movement. You don't necessarily want Jermaine Jones pushing high up the field as a second defensive midfielder. I mean, you don't want him necessarily staying in a line with Kyle Beckerman. You want him to be able to, say, man mark somebody if that's necessary, or just cover space when there's an overlap, when there's a fullback pushing up. All of those things are part of what we saw against Nigeria, I think.
My only concern, I don't know if it's a concern, but my question about the starting lineup would be whether or not Bedoya would actually start or whether or not you'd have Zuzi in there instead.
That's possible. I think that I don't know where he falls. I mean, I even picked Zuzi as sort of a lesser name who could make some noise, because everybody, if you said who's going to be the star player of this team, you say Dempsey, you say Michael Bradley. Those are obvious. If you're picking a guy, a role player who can make some noise, I think Graham Zusi's capable of that. But who knows where he stands on that position, because Bedoya, you got Bedoya and Zusi, and obviously in that formation that they played against Nigeria, that pushes Clint Dempsey into a nominal midfield position. He's not really going to be a midfielder, but the way that shakes out, you only have one forward, so you lose a position in the midfield. I mean, sorry, you lose. Yeah, you not lose. You have to move Dempsey into the midfield. So I don't know.
I guess it kind of depends on whether or not you think Zuzi, which one is better tracking back, because that's the concern with both the fullbacks.
I think Bedoya gives you more cover. I think Zusi is more dangerous with the ball at his feet coming up that flank, but I think Bedoya gives you more cover.
No.
Anything else, man?
No, love the show.
I appreciate the love and Nova. Absolutely. Thanks a lot. There you go. 347-756-6276 is your phone number. Keep them coming. I'll drop my predictions about 11:15. I'll drop my World Cup predictions about 11:15. You're free to get in with your USA World Cup prediction. By the way, we've got Twitter hash flags are back. That really tells you that the World Cup is here. As you can go on Twitter, you can type hashtag USA, and when you're on Twitter, a little American flag pops up. That's really the biggest sign that the World Cup is here. There you go. Andy on Twitter, what about the non-haters who might be open to soccer but have a higher opinion of ESPN analysts who hate on soccer? Then they need to look for the soccer people. If you are, again, I don't know why we treat soccer as some exception to all of the rules that we already have when it comes to sports in this country. If you are an avid baseball fan, you are a seam head, you are into it, you know all of the advanced metrics, you understand the game, you know how the strategies work, you talk about the shift and whether or not it ever makes sense to hit and run or to bunt. You talk about pitchers and lefty-righty matchups. If you're that kind of baseball fan, you're not going to general ESPN. You're not going to PTI for your insight. You may listen to Wilbon or Kornheiser give their opinion on whether or not the Cubs can win the title this year, but you're not going there for your analysis. You're going to Baseball Tonight. You're going to some other program that's specifically designed to cater to baseball fans. It's the same thing for soccer fans. This is why ESPN FC exists. Kornheiser and Wilbon can blabber on about soccer all they want. I'm going to go to ESPN FC if I want people who know what they're talking about. 530, you're on the air.
Hey, it's Youssef again. I had a question about the formation. I know Clinton said it's not really important, but is it like a 4-3-2-1 with Bedoya on the right, back three, Jones on the left, and Beckerman in the middle, and then Bradley and Dempsey on the two, and then they kind of switch when they attack? Or I don't exactly get the positioning.
Well, I think that we're overthinking it. If you're think about that midfield trio as a diamond. As a triangle. Excuse me. So Beckerman, Jones, and Bradley. But again, even that shape doesn't necessarily always hold, because you are allowing Jermaine Jones to be freer because he knows he has Beckerman there in the defensive midfielder position to be that anchor, to be the guy who's linking the ball from the back line to the midfield. Go watch. There's a video. My boy Rob Usery, who's on Twitter, who does a lot of U.S. soccer videos on YouTube, like cuts some stuff up, does some he's the guy who did Mix Discarude's Careless Whisper video. Rob Usery. He's got a video. It's just taken from the tactical cam that was on ESPN3 when the United States played Nigeria. It's like 2 minutes long. It's the first goal, Josie Altidor's first goal. Go watch it, because what happens is the ball is recovered by Tim Howard and they play out of the back. The ball never turns over to Nigeria. They go all the way from Howard to Altidore for the goal. And you can see what kind of role Jermaine Jones has in this team, because he at one point picks up the ball deep on the left side, to play it back, to play the combination. Then he ends up drifting all the way over to the right to get into the attack, plays the ball to Bedoya that ends up being the ball to Johnson that ends up being the goal to Altidore. Go watch it. It illustrates exactly how this is supposed to work, both in keeping the ball on the ground, maintaining possession, and also in how this positioning works. Because it's never going to be rigid. You're not going to have guys in zones and they're not going to leave those zones. That's not how this works. I'm sure you know that. I'm sure you know that. But I'm just saying, to think of it as a static shape is the wrong way to think about it. These guys are filling space based on where their teammates are going. They all have responsibilities, but it's also sort of an instinctive element to it. Can you say that Jones is playing his position if he's picking up the ball in the defensive third at the beginning of the movement and then playing the ball in the attacking third on the right side at the end of the movement? That kind of illustrates exactly what he's supposed to. Meanwhile, Beckerman is the guy who the ball is being played through back and forth across the field from Howard to Beckerman, then into the midfield. You get the ball to Cameron, and Jeff Cameron as a center back plays a little through ball for Jermaine Jones. So it's all connected.
All right, cool. Thanks, man.
I appreciate the phone call, Yusef. That's two. That's your limit. We usually have a 2-call rule. It hasn't been an issue for a while, but that's your limit. Let me take a break because I want to take this opportunity to play the unofficial Belgium World Cup song that I came across at When Saturday Comes. This thing is a stunner. I know it's unofficial and that doesn't necessarily mean a lot, but I had no idea Belgium was into rockabilly. So here you go. This is Belgium's unofficial rockabilly World Cup song, Soccer Morning, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. Be right back.
Let's put this country on the map. Too small, hell, I ain't falling for that crap. Move over.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on NASN with Jason Davis.
There's your Germany World Cup song. I can't remember if that one's official or not. There's not a whole lot of official World Cup songs. There's a lot of unofficial World Cup songs. Like we had the fusion effort, which is obviously satirical, and we played that. I think I played that yesterday. And then we have this.
Now they love my style. If they couldn't see me, man, I bet they see me now.
Which is our boy Kwame Darko's unofficial effort, which I dig a lot. So we got those two things. Unofficial American World Cup songs, because we don't have an official one. I don't know why we don't have an official World Cup song. Should we? Who should do it? We'll ask that question in a minute. Will's on the line. What's up, Will?
Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Will.
Good. Long time no talk to you.
It has been a while.
And talk about the media, about ESPN or whatnot. One of those, one of those World Cup ESPN professional analysts that come in with their completely clueless analysis.
Wait. Who are you talking about, Will? You can't dance around it. Name names. Who are you talking about?
Michael Wilbon's one of them.
Michael Wilbon's not a soccer guy, and I think that anybody. Again, Will, it's okay to respond to what Michael Wilbon said. It's okay to hear what he says and have an opinion on it. I'm not telling anybody not to. I'm just saying that we shouldn't worry that somehow people who are not soccer people, somehow people who are clueless, are going to spoil the game and ruin its popularity in America, or stop people from becoming fans. I just think that that's ridiculous.
Well, my point in my direction is that it's taken away from people that are dedicating the time, that are more qualified to making analysis. It is, in some aspect, you have to look at it and say, well, those people that are making those opinions do have some influence, believe it or not. Like Wilbon is very popular in this country.
Yeah, Wilbon has some Wilbon has some influence, but again, he's preaching to, if any of the non-soccer people hear what Wilbon says, and that keeps them from becoming, I just don't understand how that would keep them from becoming soccer fans. That's not how sports works. And again, it works
that way in this country.
No, it does,
because you got the majority of the masses that are off to the NFL, NBA.
Yes, and those
you're still
people
trying to grow the game here in this country. I know
go,
that we have the Euro snobs and the MLS snobs, that we have our little tiffs, but the one thing that we have in common is the ignorant Ted Lasso ESPN analysts.
Okay, but
that
those
come out and
people
try to smash the image of the game because they're very ignorant.
Those people are not going to be swayed in either direction by Michael Wilbon. Do you really think that some guy who lives in a part of the country where soccer is not a thing and they don't really care, and he hates on soccer, and every time he flips on ESPN he tweets, "What are they doing with soccer? I don't want to watch that." You really think that guy is going to not become a soccer fan one day because Michael Wilbon yelled about Jurgen Klinsmann? No, that's not how. Again,
I personally believe that there is a good percent or a chance or possibility because of it. The likeliness, I highly doubt it, but there is that one fraction that could make a difference because you think about it, how many youth kids love playing this sport in this country? A lot.
Yeah.
And so you have that one simple connection from your childhood that could potentially grow the game because of that. But then, you got naysayers like Michael Wilbon and all those there's plenty of ESPN analysts that ruin the integrity and the credibility of the game because of their lack of knowledge. And besides that, my point is that it takes away from people that are actually doing the work.
Sure, but there's nobody on PTI. I get it, Will. Thanks a lot, man. I'm gonna let you go. This is not a conversation I want to belabor. I'm gonna get to the next phone call. I will say this, okay? Nobody else is going. There's not another soccer person who should be whatever PTI covering soccer for 2 minutes. That's not taking away from somebody doing analysis. There is more quality. You don't have to like Steve Nicol. You don't have to like Shaka Hislop. You don't have to like Twelman or Lawless or all of these guys. You don't have to like any of them. But they are soccer people. They know the game. There is more of that happening on the major networks like ESPN, like NBC Sports, like Fox Sports 1, like the mainstream areas than ever before. And if you are so locked in on Wilbon yelling about soccer is going to scare off fans, you're missing all of the growth. You're paying attention to a negative when you should be paying attention to the positive. 816, you're on the air.
Hey, I just wanted to talk about, everybody loves the new formation and the defensive structure that we have. But what happens when we go one goal down or we have to come back?
You make a change. You make a change.
Well, what do we change to? What formation and who we slot in? I guess I just want to discuss kind of, some tactics, not just going in, but, how do we adjust in the middle of the game?
Well, it depends on when it is. If you're a goal down with, I don't know, half an hour to play, you slide Clint Dempsey up top. Maybe you make a change for Altidore, depending on the work he's done. You bring in an additional wing option. Maybe it's Bedoya if he's not in the game. Maybe it's Zusi if he's not in the game. Maybe it's Brad Davis. Maybe it's Julian Green. I very seriously doubt it, but that's possible. You're going to push Michael Bradley higher. You're going to probably ask Jermaine Jones or Kyle Beckerman, whoever you trust more, to hold that fort down by themselves. You're going to push your fullbacks further up the field than they already are, and you go for it.
I mean, this is one struggle that we haven't seen us overcome in the World Qualifiers or in the three pre-match games.
It's not.
Every time we've been scored on, we've not been able to overcome it.
They won all three of those matches. I'm not
but
sure.
They weren't scored on first.
So you're saying that you would have rather have seen that happen, that play out, that score, that game situation where they're scored on first and then had to come back and answer that? That you would have liked to have seen that?
I just want to know what the potential answer is.
All right.
I mean, I'm just going back and saying, we hear about the great, and I like the new formation. I love it. But I'm just concerned that if we go down to, say, Portugal or Germany, that do we have a response to that?
Okay, there are options on the bench. We don't know if they will work, and you hope that Klinsmann has a plan. But you have to give this to Jurgen Klinsmann. Throughout his tenure with the national team, changes that he makes are effective. That is a pretty consistent theme about Jurgen Klinsmann. When he never does it before the 60th minute, but when he does make changes, those players have an impact, and whatever adjustments he makes in the way that the United States is playing has an impact. So I would have some faith that he has a plan. Again, no idea if it'll work, and clearly the game state dictates what the other team's tactics will be. But you should at least believe, with Tom Ramos sitting there next to him, with the scouting information he'll have from Bertie Votes, and with the right track record he has with substitutions, that there is a plan. Beyond that, I don't know.
All right. Well, I hope we do. I hope there's something out there. I have a lot of faith, but it bothers me. This is a situation that we really haven't seen.
Okay. Again, I think the alternative. Thanks for the phone call. The alternatives, you want them to have gone down in one of those send-off series games, which is an odd thing to have wanted. I remember the Bob Bradley era. I remember every time they went down a goal, it was screaming bloody murder about how they couldn't start, and they always went down a goal. And to see a team actually get out ahead, even in these warm-up friendlies, is kind of a good thing. David, you're on the line.
Jason, hey, heard the rest of the show yesterday. I just want to thank you for a great show. I'll tell you that I was a huge fan of World Soccer Daily and then World Football Daily.
Mm-hmm.
That show, the thing I didn't like about it, there wasn't an American perspective. So when your show came on, I was like, God, I hope this doesn't suck. And it didn't. Great. So anyway, thanks.
Thanks for the assumption that we might have sucked, David. I appreciate that.
No. I had no idea who you were or anything about it. So who knows? Because there's some podcasts out there that let's just say they're amateurish, and certainly yours isn't. So anyway,
I appreciate that.
I really enjoyed it. So the previous caller, hey, you know what? The last 3 or 4 games, especially when we've been in the 4-4-2 with the diamond midfield, to me it might be argued that is our preparation for when we go down.
Very possible.
Klinsmann wanted to get that in there because we look weak defensively, as I pointed out. But maybe that's what Klinsmann's thinking. Let's get some work with this, and we can shift to this when we get down. And we want to make sure that we're at least, if not phenomenal defensively, at least competent, which I think we bordered on at times.
Very possible.
So anyway, that's what I would say to that. But anyway, World Cup predictions. I'm just gonna say this about our group. I'm telling you right now, this group is wide open.
Okay.
And I know this will go against the prevailing wisdom. But any 2 teams from that group can make it through, and any 2 teams from that group can go out. Okay. And I know you're not supposed to say that when Germany's involved, but I'm telling you, there's a very even group. Germany's got a lot of problems right now. I'm going to predict that the U.S. is going to go through, and I'm going to make a crazy prediction that Ghana's going to go through with us. And I even have a scenario.
That would be amazing.
And this is more my heart than my head, I'll admit it.
Sure.
But I even have a scenario where not only do we win the group, we win the group after 2 games. And it is not impossible. If we pull off a win against Ghana, and then, Portugal is able to play well enough to draw with Germany, then you're in a scenario where we go into the second game, and we beat Portugal. If Ghana is able to get their act together and scrape at Germany, which, by the way, they did 4 years ago in their group.
Yeah.
And we beat Portugal. We've won the group. It's not impossible.
David, nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. I agree with you that it's more open than maybe we thought it was back in December when it came down and we all had heart attacks. It's still going to be difficult. Appreciate the phone call, David. Thanks a lot, man. Thanks for the kind words. All right, there you go. One more phone call, 214, you're on the air.
Hey, this is Jeff from Florida.
Hey, Jeff, what's going on?
Hey, well, I have 2 things. First, I'm not saying I'm a big Wilbon fan or anything, but I'm just so cynical to think that, it just contributes to ratings, right? I mean, whether he loves Klinsmann or hates Klinsmann, it riles people up and they watch and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but
right?
he yells about a lot of things. Well, I mean, I actually like Mike Wilbon for the most part, but he is certainly in this case, and we talked about it, it was more about Kobe Bryant than it was about Klinsman or anything Klinsman said. It was obviously about defending Kobe Bryant, and that show is about yelling, about being loud, and the same thing goes for the whole First Take thing, and that's just what they do. So I think that if soccer gets pulled into that mix, we should sort of just go along with it. Okay, that's what that ESPN show does. Why would we get upset about what's said on that show?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I take it with a grain of salt. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I appreciate
anyway,
that. All right.
So my question was, it's tactical question. It's pretty clear. Most of what we're doing is going through Michael Bradley, and I'm really liking it. I think it's great. But if I'm Ghana or Portugal or Germany, I'm thinking I want to neutralize that guy.
Sure.
And I'm just kind of wondering what you think, Klinsman's response or our response is if, God forbid, Michael Bradley gets, kind of shut down a little bit. I mean, Fabian Johnson at the wing, what else?
Well, that's that you are trying to create multiple options. You're trying to create multiple players who can take that burden if necessary. But number one, I don't think Michael Bradley gets shut down or marked out of a game by anybody. I don't think that's possible. Number two, again, I'm going to go back to that Nigeria goal. And yes, friendly and all the caveats involved here. But Jeff, when you watch that goal, watch what Michael Bradley's role in it. Because what his role in it was. In the second goal for Josie Altidore, he plays the great ball over the top to set up Josie. That first goal, all he is a link player. He's not making the crucial pass. He's not the one finding the space. It's actually Jermaine Jones who creates that goal by his movement, which is facilitated by the pass from Cameron, and then obviously Bedoya and Johnson having an understanding. The whole thing is sort of a study in how exactly they want to play. Will they pull that off at the World Cup? It gets more difficult. It gets harder. There's not probably going to be as much space or as much time as the ball as Nigeria allowed them. But you can see what they want to do when you watch that goal from that angle.
Oh, definitely. And if anything, I think they're just infinitely more creative than they have been in the past. I mean, I see things happening that I can't recall having happened on a national team side in the past.
Yeah, I agree with you to a point. I mean, there have been times, but I found it interesting, Jeff. I'm going to move on because I got to do my predictions here. You want to give a prediction for the national team? How are you feeling right now?
I'm super, super, super excited, and I'm hopeful, and I think we're going to make it out of the group because I'm hoping that Portugal and Germany go to each other's throats and leave us some more wiggle room than we already have. But I think we have our fate in our own hands. I'm going to say that. I think we can do it.
That's good. I like that attitude. Fate in your own hands, not completely true. It's probably pretty impossible to have your fate in your own hands. But certainly the United States is capable, if they play well, of perhaps getting out of this group. All right. So I've done my bracket. I have my World Cup predictions. I think we're going to do this. I'll do it by group. We'll start with that. And if you want to call in at any point, argue with me, give me your predictions for any of these groups, absolutely do that. 347-756-6276. Let's start with Group A. I've got Brazil. This is Group A. Brazil, Croatia, Mexico, and Cameroon. My two teams out of Group A, number 1, Brazil. Number 2, Croatia. I don't know. I just think I'm a little less enthusiastic about the Mexican chances than I was a little while ago. 559, you're on the air. You're on the air. What's up?
Hey, Jason. It's me, Tony.
What's up, Tony?
Hey, long time listener, man.
Appreciate that. What's going on?
About the prediction, USA, top of the group.
Okay.
For Germany.
All right.
Portugal and Ghana.
All right.
They crash out.
All right.
And about this whole mass media thing,
yeah.
You know what? I think it's because we've been soccer fans here. We've been so used to being exclusive.
Yeah.
I think,
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Tony. I'll say it again, and you can back me up if you agree. You take the good with the bad on anything. I mean, there are people out there who talk about the NFL that I get upset at. They say ridiculous things I don't agree with, but I sort of disagree and move on, and that's part of the deal of being an NFL fan. The same thing goes with all these other sports. You listen to what, if you're a hockey guy, you listen to what Don Cherry says. You go, that guy's an idiot, and you move on.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, I get all that, but I'm just saying, I think majority of the callers, the listeners, and soccer fans feel that way. That we've been exclusive for so long, and now we get all this exposure, and it's just, and it's not even the exposure we want. I mean, like it's this guy yelling stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is that element. We all feel like we're in, even if we're not really pretentious about it. We all feel like we're kind of in a club. Like we have a little bit more knowledge than the average.
Yeah, exactly.
The average American fan, the average American soccer fan is more knowledgeable about it than maybe any average fan across the world. That doesn't mean there's more of us or that it's that big of a deal in the States. But I think in order to just be an average fan in the United States, you have to go looking for stuff like this show, like tactical breakdowns, like all of that stuff. You got anything else, Tony?
Yep. Oh, and Wando's clutch.
All right, Wando's clutch. You're going to back Wando to score a couple goals in this World Cup?
Oh, yeah.
All right, there you go. Appreciate the phone call, Tony. Thanks a lot, man. All right, Group B, Spain, Netherlands, Chile, and Australia. I've got Spain and Chile coming out of that group in that order. Group C, I'm going to get some people. This is the best part of this for me is that Trevor's going to respond to every pick I make. Group C, Colombia, Greece, Ivory Coast, and Japan. I've got Colombia and Ivory Coast coming out of that group. Group D, Uruguay, Costa Rica, England, and Italy. Italy and Uruguay coming out of that group. Sorry, England. Sorry, Costa Rica. I hope Costa Rica can make some noise in that group, but you can't see them coming out. Group E, Switzerland, Ecuador, France, and Honduras. My two teams are France and Ecuador in that order. A little bit of an upset there because obviously Switzerland's the seeded team. But France has obviously got tons of talent. Group F, Argentina, Bosnia, Iran, and Nigeria. I've got the Argentines and the Bosnians coming out of that group. Group G, this is the money group for Americans. Germany, Portugal, Ghana, and the United States. I'm excited about this team. I think they can do some things. I still have Germany and Portugal coming out. Group H, Belgium, Algeria, Russia, and South Korea. Belgium and Algeria are my picks out of Group H. Then we get into the second round. By the way, 347-756-6276. I moved quickly past it. You want to yell at me for my pick? Go ahead, please. This has been a very positive show from an American soccer fan perspective. U.S. fans are riding high on confidence right now, everybody. They're riding high on confidence right now. I think Trevor's taking an issue with Group B. Trevor, give me your Group B picks quickly. Spain, Netherlands, Chile, and Australia. I'm imagining you've got the Dutch coming out, right? Okay. I have doubts about the Netherlands right now. And now Robin van Persie has a kite injury, a kite surfing injury. Second round, Brazil and Chile facing off in the second round based on the way these matchups work. A1 and B2. Brazil, I got Brazil winning that. Colombia and Uruguay. This is really kind of terrible radio, is it not? To read a bracket out, it's really 559. You're on the air.
Hey, what's up, Jason? This is Conda from Visalia.
What's going on, man?
Hey, all this talk about the World Cup, it's great and all. I know the tournament's going on, but I really like to talk about some MLS.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm in the middle of my picks, but I can take it. All right. What's on your mind? MLS?
I'm fine, my man. I'm a Chivas USA supporter.
Okay.
Been since the beginning. And I just really like to know your thought about what's going to go on with the organization because supposedly they're supposed to announce a new ownership group after the World Cup.
Yeah, you know what? I heard that rumor. I don't know how much I buy it. I think it would be interesting. I mean, it would obviously be good for Chivas USA and the fans to sort of have that whole cloud just removed, know who you're working with moving forward. Maybe you don't get the rebrand until in the off season, but we know Chivas USA as a name is going away. I'm looking forward to the future for that team. It was just such a disaster from an experimental point of view that it's time to move on. It's time to move on. I wish the best for, and I hope the fans that were Chivas USA fans stick around and stay with this team. I mean, I don't think you can become Galaxy fans. That's a little too much. But I hope they stick around. And obviously nobody's showing up right now. And I don't think they're going to go from 3,000 to 20,000 next season, but let's see some progress, right?
Yes. And Jason, can I have one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Every time there's a World Cup cycle, the buzz around MLS gets bigger in the United States,
Yes.
And I'm just wondering with Columbus's rebrand, Orlando, New York City, and then Chivas rebrand or whatever. I'm just really excited for the future of MLS, and
it's cool.
This crop of MLS players in the national team. I think it's gonna be good for the future, and I'm just really excited.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I mean, I think there are some things to discuss. Thanks for the phone call, man. The player pool and how much you're stretching some things, and where this money is going and how you reinvest it properly. Those things are all open questions. But I think it's hard not to be excited about the future. All right, let me get these out before I run out of time. Second rounds, I had Brazil advancing past Chile, Uruguay advancing past Colombia, France advancing past Bosnia, Germany advancing past Algeria, Belgium beating Portugal, Argentina beating Ecuador. Where am I here? Oh, hold on. I'm getting confused. Oh, yeah. Italy beating Ivory Coast and Spain beating Croatia. Spain and Argentina in a quarterfinal with Argentina advancing. Brazil, France in another with Brazil advancing. Oh wait, no. See, I'm all thrown off here. I'm thrown off. My semifinal. Screw this. This is terrible to read. My semifinalists: Brazil, France, Spain, and Argentina. There you go. Brazil, Argentina in the final. Brazil win. There's my World Cup bracket. I probably missed some rounds in there. Yes, I have Algeria coming out of Group H. You got Russia, I imagine, right? Trevor is talking to me because Trevor doesn't like my picks. We'll see, Trevor. You think you know, but you don't know. You got to pick. You can't pick all chalk, man. You can't pick all chalk. Let's take one more phone call. 480, you're on the air.
Hi, this is Alex. Great show, Jason. I have the U.S. squeaking by out of the group on goal differentials, and that's who I predicted. Germany first, and then the U.S.
Okay, so you got them coming out of the group in the second spot. That more than likely means they face Belgium unless there's an upset in Group H. So can they beat Belgium in the second round? Oh, and he hung up. No answer. And nobody's going to pick the United States to beat Belgium in the second round if it happens. And look, here's the thought we'll leave with today. And again, a little bit over 48 hours now until the World Cup. 2 days. If the United States gets out of this group but loses to Belgium in the second round, hopefully not by a large margin, is this World Cup more of a success than 2010? Probably is, right? Well, I guess it's the same round. It'd be the same advancement. How much better of a World Cup would it be considered? Because for the layman, for all those people watching the mainstream media, it'll look exactly the same. Oh, you got out of the group and you lost in the second round. It really won't matter who the competition is in the mainstream media. But for us, considering it's Germany, Portugal, and Ghana, we can consider that that's a pretty big task. And if they can get out of the group, it's pretty stunning. Pretty stunning. All right. I'm going to go work on my bracket because apparently it's all kinds of wrong. It's a wrong bracket, right? I got a wrong bracket. Brazil's your champion. That's all that really matters. All right. I'm giving Trevor a hard time over here because he's second guessing me, but he'll never be on the air. Thanks a lot to everybody who has given us kind words. That's the last time I'm going to mention that for a while now. The World Cup is on Thursday. We've got tomorrow, Wednesday. We'll look forward to a couple of guests. We'll work on that. Please go to iTunes, give us a rating and a review. For as long as we're here, we'd like to keep that stuff up. NASN.TV is where I'll point you. Listen to all of the other NASN programs. No matter what happens with Soccer Morning, there is quality over there. Thank you to producer Trevor. Thanks to Dunny for joining us today. This was fun, and we'll be back tomorrow, and we'll have a good time, and we'll talk World Cup. And I didn't even mention Sepp Blatter today. That's an upset. See you later, guys. Bye. was this about somebody else?